Hello everyone, this is Lisa with Old Arcut Yarnery. I'm just here today to show you section 6 of our Building with Lace class. This section uses the smocking stitch. I'm on my second repeat right now of the pattern, so this is what it looks like right here. We've got this nice traveling pattern going in a diamond shape, and then you see the little bar here, that's the smocking stitch. And they're offset 2 times in each section. I'm just getting ready to start row 7, so I'm going to show that to you now so I can demonstrate the smocking stitch. I want to tell you a couple things about markers and things like that too while we're going along. So as always with this pattern, it says maintaining the 5-stitch garter row at each end, right? So the beginning of every row, you already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I say it to myself when I'm doing it just to remind myself too. So we're going to slip this first stitch with the yarn in front. Then we're going to knit the next 4. And then I have markers at each of those 5 stitches on each end to remind me. And now I'm going to start row 7. So row 7, I'm following the chart. You can follow either the chart or the written instructions, whatever you choose. But row 7 starts with a knit and a yarn over and an SSK. So that's pretty straightforward. Knit, yarn over, SSK. I'm going to show you this section continental style, and then I will switch to English in a few minutes. And then after the SSK, there's one more knit, and then we have that funny little symbol on the chart that looks like a little, I don't know, little guy with ears, I'm not sure. And that is the smocking stitch. So here's where we're going to do the smocking stitch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to insert the tip of our right needle between the 5th and 6th stitch on the needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's my 5th and 6th stitch. Now I'm not going into a stitch, I'm just going directly in between those 2 stitches, not capturing any yarn. I know you probably can't see that, but my needle is just right next to the other needle. So I'm just between the 5th and 6th stitch, and I'm going to draw up a loop as if I'm knitting right now. Draw that through. Now I'm going to draw it kind of big, and now I'm going to place it on my left needle. Now the pattern tells you this, and I believe the video that comes with the book too, but you know, when you place a stitch on your needle, you're usually concerned with how it's oriented. You want to make sure that the right leg is in the front. But when you're placing this one on, it doesn't matter. So just go ahead and get it straight onto there, like that, on the left-hand needle. So here I have my loop that I drew up between the 5th and 6th stitch. I've placed on my left needle, and I'm going to knit that together with the first stitch on my left needle. Now this is the point where you want to be careful not to pull too tight because you don't want to strangle all your stitches right here. You want those smocking stitches to be fairly uniform across your project. So I'm just kind of pulling gently to give it a little bit of a pull in, but not to pull it too tight. I also don't want it too gappy so that it's very loose. So I'm going to knit those 2 together. That completes the smocking stitch. So now the pattern shows that I'm going to knit 5. Now, if you'll notice, there are 4 left here inside the smocking stitch. So there's 2, 3, and 4, but I have to knit 5, so I'm going to knit 1 more here. And then we're doing a knit 2 together and a yarn over. And a knit 2 together and a yarn over. And then I come to my marker. Now, a note about this is a yarn over right next to a marker. You're going to want to be very mindful of that and careful of the kind of markers you're using. Some markers can tend to help have you lose that yarn over so that it comes on the other side of the marker. So you'll want to make sure that your marker is such that it's going to maintain that yarn over on the right side of the marker where you need it to be. Okay, talk a little bit more about markers in just a moment, but let's carry on. And so now we're going to continue our repeat. So we're going to go back to knit 1. Remember, you're repeating everything between the asterisks if you're using the written instructions and between the red lines if you're using the chart. So I'm going to knit 1, I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to SSK, and then I'm going to knit 1 more, and then I'm going to do a smocking stitch. So I'm going to go between my 5th and 6th stitch on the needle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here, I'm going to insert from front to back. I'm going to pull up the yarn as if I'm going to knit, draw it kind of big, and then just place it straight on to my left needle, just like that. Knit it together. Now I insert my needle, and then that's when I give the yarn a little bit of a tug to tighten it up a little bit. And then I go ahead and knit them together. And now I knit 5, 4, 5. Your fifth one should always be that one after the smocking stitch. And now I knit 2 together and a yarn over. Now I want to talk for just a minute about markers. Yarn over. Let me knit this first stitch here so I don't lose the marker. Okay, so as you know, we've been placing markers in this pattern for our repeats, and that helps us to stay on track, helps you to know before you get all the way to the end of the row if you're off for that section of repeat. The trick with this particular pattern in section 6 is that the markers will shift halfway through. So I'm going to show you here on my chart, I don't know if you can see it, but rows 1 through 8, here is the repeat here. And then rows 9 to 16, it shifts and the repeat is this way. And that's because of that offset of these smocking stitches, the way that they're located in the pattern. So what I did is when I did row 1, I placed my markers every, how many is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, every 12 stitches. So that was my repeat. And I maintained that all the way through row 8. Row 8 is a wrong side row and you're purling every stitch. On row 8, I removed the markers as I was purling across. And row 9 is where it shifts. So row 9, I placed my markers again. But in row 9, they have you knit 6 stitches before you start that 12 stitch repeat. So I'd knit the 6 stitches as indicated in the pattern. Then I placed my first marker and then placed them every 12 stitches all the way across. The exception is the very last section has 14 stitches, so just keep that in mind so you know that you're not too far off. Everyone should have 12, except this last section is going to have 14. And then, of course, you have your 5 on either end for your garter border. All right, let me show you another section doing it English style. So I did knit 1, now I'm going to do yarn over, and then I'm going to do SSK, which is slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit. Insert the tip in there and knit them together like this. And now I'm going to knit 1 more, and then I'm going to do the smocking stitch. So just like when I was showing you before, we're going to count over 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to insert our needle tip between the 5th and 6th stitch. Oops, I got that 5th stitch. You want to make sure to not get a stitch. You just want to be in between the 2 stitches. Now I'm going to wrap the yarn and pull it through just as if I were going to knit. I'm going to pull it a little bit big and place it on that left needle. Now I like to use my thumbnail to help me pull out that first stitch so I can see it clearly, because I'm going to knit that together with the one I just placed on there. And now I'm going to wrap and knit those 2 together. Oops, maybe. That completes the stocking stitch. Now I'm going to knit 5, or smocking stitch, sorry. Now I'm going to knit 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm going to knit 2 together and yarn over. And I'm at my marker, which means I am correct. I am on. Yarn over. Remember, I'm going to move this marker, and I want to be mindful that that yarn over stays on the other side of that marker. So when I go to knit the next stitch, here's my yarn over hanging out here. I'm going to make sure to move that marker over so that when I knit, my yarn is coming under the marker. Let me knit this stitch and I'll show you. So now I have the yarn over maintained on this side, and I have the knit stitch on this side. If I were not careful, let me undo that and show you. If I weren't careful, I would do my yarn over, so bring my yarn around like normal, move my marker, and then I would go to knit, and if I'm not careful, you see how this yarn can come over the top of that marker, or even in front of the marker? If I did that, then who knows where that yarn over is going to end up. Now my marker is just kind of stuck in the middle, and I don't know where was that yarn over supposed to be. So this is where, especially in English style, you need to be a little more careful to go ahead and do your yarn over, move your marker over. When you knit that first stitch afterwards, I want to make sure to move my yarn around the bottom of my marker so it's not capturing that marker, and knit. Whenever you have a project that has a yarn over next to a marker, you always have to be a little more careful. So knit 1, SSK. Oh no, knit 1 yarn over. Oops, sorry. Knit 1 yarn over, SSK, knit one more, and now my smocking stitch. So we're going to count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going to put our needle between the 5th and 6th stitch right there. Not catching any stitches in my needle. I'm just going straight here, straight through. Wrap the yarn and pull it through as if I'm knitting, but then pull it up and set it on my left needle. I use my thumbnail to pull my first stitch away so I can identify it and knit it together with that loop I just placed on the needle. And now I'm going to knit 5, 2, 3. That knitting 2 together at the very end is the end of the smocking stitch. It is not part of the knit 5 on the pattern. 5. Now I'm going to knit 2 together and yarn over, and I'm at the end of my repeat. Now you only have the smocking stitch on row 7 and row 15. The rest of the rows are fairly straightforward. No new stitches. Knit 2 togethers and slip slip knits are really all you're going to find there. Let me set this down a moment. That's all you're going to find, and whether you're following the chart or the written instructions, either way it works. But this is what those smocking stitches look like. There's that little stitch that was pulled up. If you think it looks a little similar, let me go back a few sections here. Here, I think it was section 2. We had this little bit of a wrap stitch here. And remember, that was done a little differently. We put the stitch on a cable needle and we wrapped the yarn around it a few times. But for this one, that was this section that we did that, section 3, right there, the center of these diamonds. We moved the stitches over and we wrapped them around and then we put them back, but that's not what we're doing in a smocking stitch. In smocking stitch, we're simply going between the 5th and 6th stitch, pulling that loop up, putting it on the needle, and then knitting it together. So it creates this one little wrap that comes over. All right, I hope that you enjoy that. I look forward to seeing your work and how your progress is coming. If you have any questions or any problems, as always, you know where to find me. You can send me an email or a call or come in the shop. I'd be happy to help. See you later. Bye-bye.